I was inspired to write this story back in early 2004, which on the surface was a pretty difficult time in my life. I had just gone through a divorce and was in the middle of some activities that were hurting a lot of good people, and those were activities that would ultimately lead me to federal prison. I remember walking down a hallway at a hospital up in Detroit. I was there visiting my oldest daughter, who had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I guess I was pretty much still drowning in my own pity party when I came across a young couple, probably in their late 20s, pulling their young son in a little red wagon. And I'm guessing the little boy was probably around 3 years old. He'd lost his hair, he was very thin and frail, and he had that gray and ashen look that seriously suggested that the end may be near. And for me, it was one of those rare moments in life where you realize that your problems aren't as bad as you think they are. And while I was trying to fathom the amount of stress that this young couple was going through, this little boy looks up and smiles at his parents, and they smile back at him. And that exchange was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. And something inside of me wanted those smiles to last, because in so many cases, particularly in cases like that, those smiles don't. Over the next couple of years, I continued to head down the wrong road in life and continue to hurt everyone around me. And somehow in the middle of that destruction, I had managed to scribble around 1,000 pages about a magical character who shows up at a hospital in a small Michigan town that makes smiles last. At the end of 2007, I ended up in federal prison, and the story got scrapped. And prison really is one of those things I wouldn't wish on anyone, but at the same time, there are few things that I'd trade that experience for, because from a spiritual standpoint, it really gave me the opportunity to slow down and realize what's important. And as my faith grew, I was becoming anxious to share some of those things that I learned, so I figured what better way to do that than to rewrite my manuscript in a way that was a lot less magical and a lot more spiritual. You know, I'd never submitted the story to a traditional publisher, didn't know anything about getting an agent, and I really was attracted to the idea of the control you have when you self-publish. I have a niece that loves doing research. She knew what we were looking for, and she sent me a link with WestBow's information and a handful of pretty good reviews. So I gave them a call and started speaking with my publishing consultant, Jeremy Weddle. And what initially separated WestBow from everyone else was the way Jeremy listened. And instead of jamming stuff at us, he listened to what we wanted. Ultimately, no one compared to what WestBow had. And when you throw the icing on the cake that Thomas Nelson is the driving force behind WestBow, our decision was made. Once we turned the manuscript over and the production process started, I was in pretty regular contact with a gentleman by the name of Alan Bauer, who is the publisher and director of channel sales. A few weeks after that, I get an email, and it's from Alan Arnold, who is the senior vice president and head of fiction at Thomas Nelson. And the email basically says, congratulations, on your stories. We've got someone here that's a big fan of it. We've also got one of our editors reading it. And I was wondering if you might be open for a conversation somewhere down the road to talk about your book and maybe writing some other stories. So I kind of remember staring at the email, and I looked up and said, boy, let me fast and pray on this one for a while. Yes. And before you know it, here we are. I'm a Thomas Nelson author, which is one of the greatest feelings in the world. And I guess I want to thank God. I want to thank my brother Ken and my sister Allison for having belief in the book. And I want to thank all my friends at WestBow, because without you guys, this incredible journey never would have happened.